Right, a warm welcome to everybody, and this is going to be an absolutely fantastic session. You see, Elite Masterminds is a session that likes to bring relevance into this entrepreneurial space that we call real estate. So today is a question that really came from so many agents out there, and it was one that is affecting, I'm going to say, real estate agents, not only here in South Africa, but globally. And it's winning listings in a competitive market. You see, one thing that I've actually come to realize doing a little bit of research behind is listings at the moment are tight. But what we're also finding is competition is suddenly starting to increase. There are more and more real estate agents that are around us. And when we start having this huge competition around us, what actually happens is, as a real estate agent, we feel that opportunity is disappearing. But the truth of it is, opportunity is actually everywhere around you. And all you really need to do is you need to shift your approach. And that's what I want to talk about today, is how you can actually start shifting your approach to get these particular listings. Now, I know for a fact, as I mentioned, listings are definitely on the low. I had a research of the area around myself and what we generally have on the market. We normally have roughly about 120 properties on the market at any given time, currently sitting at 54. Now, that is an amazing low amount of stock. So it definitely is reality. There is a less amount of stock. And that's in one of my suburbs that I actually checked out. The second is definitely agent count has increased across all different agencies out there. For whatever reason, people are flooding into this real estate space, but it's actually now starting to saturate this market with the amounts of real estate agents out there. But there's another factor to this that I actually started to really dig into, and this was sellers. And I wanted to understand the reason why is that, well, let's call it the inventory so low. And I've just done real high-level research to try and understand the market a bit better. And I actually did something that most real estate agents don't like to do. I did a couple of calls. In fact, I phoned 4 people, random people in the suburb, and I just said, hey, by the way, I am in real estate, but I'm not looking at selling your particular house. Ultimately, what I'm trying to do is just do a little bit of a survey. I just want to understand. Now, these individuals, they'd actually been in their houses for 15 plus years. So they'd been in for a long time. In fact, they're the type of sellers that you would be looking for, because they're at that point of thinking, hey, I've been in for 15 years. Do I need to be in for another 15 years? Do I sell? My kids are out, the house to be. But anyway, I started to call, and I called 4 of them. And really what I wanted to do is I wanted to find out from them, and I was very blunt and open and honest. I'm not looking at listing your particular property. What I'd like to do is get your honest opinion so that I could actually get a better understanding of the market. And something common came out of these 4 clients. Now, they'd been in their properties 15 plus years. One had actually been in for 30 years, and they actually said, we won't move out of this property. And I said, that is fantastic, because I love you as a neighbor, and I wouldn't want you to move. And they absolutely loved that. But I said, if you wanted to sell, what would be that primary reason? And most of them used the typical Ds, they want to obviously downsize, etc. But I said, what is the one reason that you want to stay in your particular property and not sell? And that was really the question that I proposed through to them. The answer actually blew my mind, because what came back to me was, well, Stuart, we're actually uncertain about the economy. Where we are right now, we feel safe. We feel like the economy that's around us won't affect us while we're inside the house. Yes, some of them were paying bonds, some of their properties were paid off. But one of the reasons why they did not want to sell their property was because of the uncertainty of the economy. Now, that blew my mind. I honestly, and I'll be totally honest with you, I did not expect that as a particular response. And it was the first time that I'd actually come in. I got that from 2 out of the 4. That actually said to me, because of the uncertainty of the economy, where they're staying, they feel safe. Yes, they were in a position where their properties were paid up, but they were feeling safe. And that was one of the key areas with having these conversations with them. So this got me thinking, how do I actually now take a person who feels, let's say, a little bit insecure about the economy, they don't want to sell, but there might be something that might get them to sell if one of the Ds come in front of them. What do I need to do? And that is what I'm really going to start digging into. You see, it's going to start winning these particular listings from your competitors. We know that the stock is low. We know that we've got these challenges. And we know that there are so many more real estate agents around us. So what can we do? Well, the very first thing is I actually went back to basics. Going back to basics is what we call being the local expert. That was really one of the key fundamentals, success for me in my business, but being that local expert. And being that local expert isn't being the one that has your billboard all over the place. And when somebody speaks to you, you just go, well, because my billboard there, I'm an expert. No, being an expert is a person that actually knows the information. And I then just sat down and reflected back. What did I used to do to make sure that I became that local expert? Now, I had a coaching call with one of our top agents, and I asked him the question, how many properties have sold in the last 3 months? Now, this is one of our top agents, and they kind of said, well, we think it's around about this. And I said, now there is one of the key differences. They're having a bit of a challenge at the moment. They had forgotten the basics. They'd forgotten about being the local experts. And now what they're doing, they're making sure they're updating themselves. So they're looking at the properties that have sold in the last 3 months, the last 12 months, having a real handle on everything that comes on the market that's under offer, that has been sold. It's also starting to look at what is the average days on the market. If a property is listed today and it's slightly overpriced, is it going to be 120, 150 days? If it lists today, will it sell within 21 days? Being that individual that knows those details, as well as the price trends. We're finding in certain areas prices are going up because the demand is there and the people are actually pushing. Some area, the prices are going down. So when we start looking at becoming that local expert, we want to make sure that we know everything about the real estate in that market. And I'm actually encouraging you right now, if there's only one thing that you're going to be doing for the rest of today after this particular session, is go and figure out how many properties have sold in the last 3 months, how many properties have sold in the last 12 months, whether it's freehold, sectional titles, in estates, etc. Get those details, have them in front of you. Have a look at, well, is the price or the days on the market? Where do I find that? There's a lot of the portals, by the way, that you can actually find out. Go to P24, go through to the little sections and you'll actually see. But then also having a look at those pricing trends. You know, the price of the properties, the average that sold in the last 3 months compared to the last 12 months, have the prices gone up? Have the prices gone down? You see, when you've got this amount of information and you start having a conversation with your seller, suddenly you do become that local expert. But that doesn't just stop there with the knowledge. You've also starting to, or you need to start putting out yourself into the actual market. And that is being visible. Now, I said billboards, and billboards are great. Billboards are expensive. And I've got a really great trick that can actually help you to create a billboard that actually you didn't pay for. It's free, but we'll talk about that at another session. What I want you to do is to make sure that everybody knows who you are, going back to traditional roots. One of the big traditional methods that I used to do was flyers. I used to send out flyers, not the flyers that says, hey, are you looking at selling? Because those are the flyers that's going to end up in the dustbin extremely quickly. I would send out flyers which would actually give market updates. Hey, by the way, I've just done all this research in the last 3 months. We've just had 23 properties that have actually sold at an average price of this, and I'd love to share that information. Start putting out information. Start sharing that you are that local expert. Start getting that information out. So flyers that you can send out. You can send out WhatsApps if you've got groups, emails through to newsletters if you've got that database that you've actually built up. You want to be present in anything that is a public. Maybe there's a craft market, or maybe there's a school fete. Be present, be there, stand, talk to people, engage with people, do what humans do best: conversation, building relationships. So by doing this, this is that first area that I reflected on, is being that local expert. It's the one area that most people sit back and go, do I really need to know how many properties sold? Do I really need to know the average days on the market? Sounds like a lot of hard work. The great thing, because real estate is a very slow moving industry as far as these stats and the numbers, you can actually do this every quarter and just get those stats, do it once every quarter, which means one day out of 90, and it's probably going to take you about 30 to 45 minutes, you will have this information. You'll be able to take that information and actually spread that information through to your actual audience out there. So there's the very first one that I really want you to get out there, is becoming that local expert. It's just so, so important. The second is, now that you've created this presence and people are becoming more aware of you, and you're doing this on a consistent and persistent basis, the second area that I actually found that in order to win the listings, because there's so many agents, suddenly a seller puts up their hand and they said, we're looking at selling our property. And ultimately what happens, it's almost like every single real estate agent just gets this alert. They all come down on this particular property, all fighting to get that sole mandate, to have that exclusivity on the property. The seller suddenly is feeling overwhelmed with all these strangers coming through their particular property. They don't know who to go with. So what do? They pick the local expert, or they pick the person they know, they trust, and they want to do business with. And the rest, well, they disappear. Well, that got me thinking. If your sellers are going to pick people that either they know, they trust, and they want to do business with, or people that really have stood out in the market, what can you do to do that? And this actually got me thinking. You see, one of the big things when you walk into a seller's property for the very first time is you got to go, hey, hi, I'm Stuart and I'm from ABC Real Estate and I'd love to come through and sell your property. And they go, well, we don't really know who you are. You are a stranger. And you spend your first 15, 20 minutes introducing yourself. You spend that time, which should be closing the deal, trying to sell you as an individual. Now, I was thinking of that and thinking, well, wouldn't it be so much easier when you rocked up at a particular property and the seller went, hey, Stuart, it's so great to see you. I've been looking forward to you coming through to our property. Imagine if that was the discussion that you had with your particular sellers when you went there for the very first time. And that got me thinking even deeper. Well, if I went to a property and they kind of knew who I was and they were more open and inviting, what are the chances of them taking or giving me a mandate? It would be extremely high. So what can I do? Well, one of the big things that you can actually do is what we refer to as pre-framing your listing appointments. Now, what do we mean by pre-framing the listing appointments? And this was something that I'd actually started that really helped to eliminate that first 30 minutes of a conversation. I would actually not just wait to kind of impress this particular client, where you got to sit down in front of them. I actually wanted to send them information beforehand. I'd reached out to them and said, hey, by the way, I'd love to have a discussion with you to sell your property. And they would say, yes, that's great. We are looking in, we are in the actual market. Now, instead of me creating all my CMAs and then rocking up and putting all those paperwork on the actual table and having the discussion, I would actually do something before that. And I actually used to send out a small little WhatsApp video as an introduction. I had a very simple little script. It would be, hey, it's Stuart from ABC Real Estate. I'm just using that as an example. Hey, it's Stuart from ABC Real Estate. Thank you for such a great call. I am so looking forward to meeting you on Thursday at 2 p.m. so that we can discuss how we're going to market your property and get you the highest price in the shortest possible time. I'm looking forward to seeing you then. And that was a very straightforward and simple video script. Why? Why was it done on video? Well, they got to see my face. They got to hear my voice. They could start to connect. But also what I did was I set an expectation that we're going to discuss the marketing of their property. as well as seeing how we can get the highest price in the shortest possible time. And using that as a little video script, suddenly, when I got to properties, the actual sellers were anticipating me with this magnificent marketing plan, which I did have, by the way, an 8-week marketing plan. But I had this marketing plan that they would then say, that is fantastic. Now, I've already pre-framed it. You see, I've set this expectation. Instead of, hi, by the way, I'm Stuart, and we just had a conversation, and now I've got to spend the next 20 minutes to actually build that relationship. So I would actually send, before the appointments, send them a small video. Send it on WhatsApp. It's a great little tool. Create the video, have that script, and just give it some kind of input so that they know the expectations. So instead of the normal text message, convert that to a video message. And that was one of the key areas where I wanted to stand out. Now, something else, as a side note, the outfit that I would wear on the video was the same outfit that I would actually wear when I went to my appointments as well, so that it became even more familiar and I didn't have to even think about it. You see, by the time I walk through that particular door, I want that seller to know that I'm a professional. I want that seller to even know exactly what is going to be expected. And ultimately, what's going to happen is that's going to elevate me above the rest of the agents that are actually coming through that property. And one thing that I always ended with when a seller loved it and said, oh, and by the way, I'm not sure if I want to sign with you just yet because I've got Derek from XYZ Real Estate coming in about a half an hour. And I would actually always respond by saying, well, if you want, I will call Derek. I know him very, very well. Whether I did or not, it was besides the point. I will give Derek a call and I will tell him that we're working together and that I'm willing to open up my particular mandate and he can bring in buyers. I've got no problem with that at all. And ultimately, I want to save you time so that you can enjoy the rest of the evening with your family. And that was almost my, I want to call it like a corny closing script, but it worked a lot of the times because they would go, we've set this appointment. I would cancel the appointment so that they're not bad, I'm bad. I would speak to Derek, even if I didn't know who Derek was. I'd ask him for their number, but I would find out who Derek is and say, hey, by the way, Derek, I've just met with this particular set. I've signed the soul mandate. They just wanted to let you know, it's with myself, but if you've got any buyers, please bring them through and we can collaborate on this particular deal. It's a great way to make sure that you can secure those soul mandates as you're going forward. Now, once you get into this particular property, you've already lifted up your professionalism. So the expectation is really, really high that you're going through. And something that I got to realize, I've been with multiple agents out to appointments, and most times I'm seeing, especially the agents that have very few listings, they're actually very desperate. They're almost saying, please, can I have your listing? They're almost begging for the listing. There's a very strong sign of desperation that is actually around it. And I find that as soon as you get to that point of desperation, the seller looks at you in an unprofessional manner. So when you're actually pitching your sales pitch to them, it has to be with confidence. Confidence to the level where you're not just talking about nonsense. You're not trying to sell what you're doing. You're hitting to the point. You're actually taking them on a journey. You're actually explaining to them exactly the process that we're going to follow so that we can get that property sold in the shortest amount of time at the highest possible price. And you're going to get a lot of objections that come through. Now, the only way that you can pitch with confidence in this particular journey is with scripts. You've got to have these scripts wrapped into play. You see, this is a form of negotiations. You're having a discussion with a particular seller. The negotiation is to list their property at the price that you have actually worked out that it will sell. But more importantly, so that you've actually got that soul mandate and you close out all the rest of the actual agents. And you've got to have that confidence to actually go forward with it. And that negotiation requires a script. It's so that you can actually lead that conversation to the desired outcome. The desired outcome is that sole mandate. If you don't go in with scripts, ultimately what's going to happen, you're going to be taken off the beaten path. You're going to be talking about the sports events. You're going to be talking about the weather. You're going to be talking about the economy. And that's going to really derail your entire process. You need to make sure that when you're going through, regardless of what you're presenting through to your particular seller, you're doing it with confidence, but it's all based around scripts. It gives you that guidance of how to bring everything back. It allows you to understand objections. Now, how do we do this? Well, there's two ways that you can do it. You can either practice on a seller or you can practice with a colleague. So practicing with a seller is something that it's real life. You can't suddenly go, all right, let's just do that again. You've actually got to go through it on an ongoing basis. And ultimately what you do is you actually look at every single property that's on the market. You make contact with them to find out if they've got an open mandate, and you practice with them. And the reason why you practice with them is, well, there's an 80% chance that they may even give you that open mandate, and you might be able to collaborate and work on it. And it allows you to practice. So it becomes an easier situation that you're going through. And it's that practicing that when you go through to we call them the vanilla sellers. These are the sellers that don't have any agents yet. You've got a lot of confidence to go through. So the first method is practicing with sellers. The second is practicing with colleagues. Work with agents that are in your particular area. Come up with scripts. Go through your sales pitch. Bounce it off each other. Be hard with each other. Repeat. Give each other the positive responses, because this is going to help you to build that confidence. See, when you repeat something over and over again, it becomes natural. And it's like saying your name. Someone doesn't come up to you and says, hey, what's your name? You go, let me just check my... No, you say it with confidence. Why? Because it's internalized. So you need to make sure that you are pitching with confidence as you're going through. And the only way that you can actually pitch with confidence is to make sure that you've actually got that script and that you can actually negotiate and flow through this particular process. So now that you've actually done all of this, you've created that awareness as the local expert, you've now got that pre-appointment coming in, you've now done the actual pitching with confidence, there are times where a seller might say to you, fantastic, I love the information that you've given me. And we actually need to do a little bit of renovation work in order to get that particular price. That might have been part of your conversation. Now, I remember back to a client of mine, and when I first went around to the property, it was in winter. The grass was literally dead. There was no grass. It was like a sand patch. And there were a lot of areas in the property that needed a little bit of touch up. The paint, the pool, well, it wasn't a pool that you wanted to swim in because it actually didn't look that great. And through the conversation, these were these big eyesores. So ultimately what we did is we had this discussion, and in order to get my client a much higher price, he actually said that he will do all the little touch-ups of paint, redo the pool, as well as do a little bit of landscaping to make sure that grass to grow. Now, we had to wait from winter through to summer. It was 5 months. 5 months of doing all these little bits and pieces. And once it was ready, when we listed it, we actually sold it within 10 days because it was absolutely fantastic. And we sold it at that high price. But that was 5 months. Now, in that 5-month period, I know for a fact, if I didn't stay top of mind, he would have done all that work. And it possibly, no, not possibly, it would have gone to another agent in the area. So I needed to make sure that I remained top of mind. So when you come across a situation where a seller is saying to you, yes, I'd like to sell, but I just need to do this amount of work because on your recommendations, we could possibly get a little bit more. Houses that are cluttered that needs to be decluttered. Houses that maybe need fascia boards repainted. Maybe the garden needs to be cut, or maybe wait until it gets a bit green. Having all of these different areas in place may take a little bit of time. And I can tell you, I've actually jumped into and picked up listings following another agent's hard work because they did not stay top of mind. And that is a lesson that you don't want to be targeted towards yourself. So if you're having these conversations with your particular sellers, you need to stay top of mind. Now, staying top of mind could be something with maybe a weekly or bi-weekly call, a WhatsApp, an email. Hey, by the way, what's going on? How's things going with the property? I know that you're talking about the grass. Have you done this? Have you done that? What is going on with this? Hey, what about if I come through? Have a look and see what you've done to see your progress. See if you're ready to list yet. You see, I did this on a constant basis. I also added things like, hey, by the way, since we actually spoke, interest rates have actually decreased. We've seen buyers starting to increase their prices, which is working favorable for us. Or in the reverse, hey, by the way, interest rates are going up. I know you've seen that because we've spoken how that high interest rate is actually affecting your affordability with your family. And the higher it goes, we might need to list it now. So having these conversations on an ongoing basis kept top of mind. So I used getting updates on the renovations or the work. I used to get updates on the economy of what's actually happening. And then I would just give updates on, hey, how's it going? It's fantastic. And I cannot wait to start moving into your property to get it sold as quick as possible. You see, staying top of mind with these existing clients that are on the verge of wanting to list is so important. But there's also another side of it. It's staying top of mind of, well, I've just sold a property to a buyer. And in about 7 to 10 years, guess what? They potentially could become a seller. Or maybe it's an old client base that I've actually been working with over the years. You see, staying top of mind is not only relevant to people that are looking to potentially put their house on the market, but it's also to stay top of mind with everybody in your database. And this is an area that a lot of agents tend to neglect because it seems like hard work. It seems like hard work to send a message, maybe an email once a month of, hey, what's happening in the actual market? Maybe it's well, winter's coming, there's frost coming, maybe put some frost cover over all your plants so that they don't die, and then you've got to spend money on replanting them. Giving some tips in that particular area. You see, staying top of mind on an ongoing basis, whether they're looking at selling or whether they're not looking at selling, is extremely important. Because even if they're not looking at selling, by staying top of mind, you know what's going to happen? You're going to start picking up referrals because they're going to go, hey, by the way, I've got a friend that's looking at selling their property. I don't know anybody else in the market. I know that you're the local expert because you've shared that information with us. We've actually had that experience of conversations with you. And, well, I know that I can refer you to someone because I know that you're going to do the job because you're setting that expectations as you're actually going through. So it is so important to remain top of mind. Have a system in place where you could be every month, you want to be in a different area where you're in person. So look out for fates, markets, etc., seeing how you can get that presence. Don't be the real estate agent that stands there and saying, hey, do you want to sell your house? 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 Because that's going to get people to almost have a separation from you. But just that awareness, walking around, when more people know you and you're having conversations with people, networking with people, popping out WhatsApps when it's special days, anniversaries, making sure that you're following them, liking them, comment on their posts, whether it's on social media. Staying top of mind becomes so crucial for your particular business. Now, what's great about everything that I've shared with you today, you see, most real estate agents, they only think about listing. I need to list a property. I need to sell a property. Why? Because I got to make commission to pay those bills. But what I've shared with you is actually the journey of an entrepreneur. You see, as an entrepreneur, you want to take people through this educational journey. You want to make sure that you're actually coming across in the most professional manner. When you do that, what actually happens is you find that your clients will start to respect you. They will start to want to deal with you. And instead of you having to make the phone calls, you're going to start to receive the phone calls. But why do agents don't like the entrepreneurial journey? Because it is a slow path. It works like a hockey stick. It goes very slow in the beginning, and then suddenly it just ramps up like you cannot believe. And you need to make sure that you put in that cycle. That cycle is 90 days, making sure that you're doing it consistently for 90 days. So make sure that you are remaining that local authority in your area and you're doing it on an ongoing basis. Even if nobody's coming back to you and saying, that was great, thank you for sharing, just carry on doing it. Because remember, it can just be one person that picks up one of your flyers, who watches one of your videos or reads one of your posts that goes, hey, I like that person. They know what they're doing. I want to list with them. So make sure that you do it on that consistent basis. Make sure that you win the battle before the appointment. Don't go to the appointment to try and win it. Use what I shared with you. There's a lot of other methods that you can use, but the one where you do a video, hey, just confirming our appointment. You want to win that appointment before you even have that conversation with your actual clients. And remember, when you're actually sitting in front of your sellers, it's not always about price, okay? So too often we think it's only about price, and everybody has got the stats, but the truth of it is the price is actually dictated by the buyers. And unless you're a buyer, you've actually got no power in that. You can try and influence them, but it's their affordability. So what you actually can do in your appointments, you can actually pitch with strategies on how to build awareness, strategies on how to make sure that everybody knows about this particular property. They know about the features, the benefits of this particular property. See, that particular strategy is what your seller, in fact, is what they're wanting to hear. Why? Because when you have a bigger audience that is actually interested in the property, it starts pushing the price up. If you've only got one person that's interested, the negotiation is extremely difficult. If you've got 10 people interested in the property, well, now you can start to get those prices higher and higher. And ultimately, it's how you also set it in a short amount of time, because the first one in with a great offer is going to get the property. So you need to build that awareness, and that's that strategy that you can actually pick. Now, I've gone through a huge amount today. And as I said to you in the beginning of the session, I can actually talk and talk in these elite masterminds to give you as much information as possible. But I really wanted to highlight what I've done personally, what's worked for me personally. And I know that each and every one of you can do it because you've got that entrepreneurial spirit inside of you in this particular real estate space. So with what I've shared with you, there's a few points that have actually gone, that's interesting. I never thought of that. I want you to pick one or two of them. I want you to implement it. But here's what I really want you to do. I want you to set yourself a target and a goal. For the next 90 days, you will do that activity for the next 90 days, whatever it might be. You will do it for the next 90 days before you turn around and say, hey, Stuart, that just does not work for me. You need to make sure that you've had that commitment and being persistent through 90 days. Because once you get to the end of it, you're going to actually realize that that becomes habit and it becomes natural. And it's something that's going to become part of your business as you're actually starting to grow, as you're moving forward in your particular journey as an entrepreneur in this real estate space. So I've covered a huge amount. And as I normally say, I normally have a guest that joins me in these elite masterminds. But due to certain circumstances, my guest could not join in. So I literally had to just pull this information from personal experience to share with you, because winning listings in a competitive market, it can be a challenge. But the truth of it is, if you follow a system and you go through it step by step, you will find that you're going to start winning more listings. You're going to start getting more recognized in your particular suburbs as you are going forward in your particular business. So from myself, Stuart, I want to thank you so much for attending this particular session. I'm hoping that when you go out, you will actually not only master your process, but you'll become a master at getting properties that are well priced and that you're going to sell them in the shortest amount of time. So until our next session, I'm looking forward to meeting all of you again and really digging deep as we're going through. So from myself, Stuart, you have a fantastic day ahead.